Hey guys, so just a quick thing. So if you're wondering why this video is being uploaded before I get 700 subscribers, is because me and Ryan C made a little bit of a change. So if you didn't know, this video here was originally supposed to be the 700 subscriber special, but Ryan C told me that he had another idea where I showed off every beacon collection from any tower enthusiast who had one. He said that it would benefit the tower community if I did that for the 700 subscriber instead. So I'm going to just make this as a normal video. Well, I mean, it's not actually a normal video because it is a request video. Somebody requested this a long time ago, and I just didn't get to it until like last month, I think. So I'm going to be ranking every single Rolla tower by looks, beacon setup, and whatever else. We're going from boring and basic to cool. Cool and iconic. I am going to include some dead towers, only two, because the specific dead towers I'm talking about, I've seen them in person and I have some nostalgia with them. So I decided to add them onto the list, even though I probably shouldn't have. I don't know. Alright, so let's get started. So we're starting off with Downtown Monopole 1. So this here is just a normal beaconless monopole with one platform. It's gray, it's boring, 1 out of 10. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, I'm going to be ranking all these towers from whatever number to 10. So this here is a 1 out of 10, it's nothing special. Next up, I got the tiny Rolla monopole. This here might be the only tower in Rolla I have not filmed yet. This here is just a very small beaconless monopole with just one platform, as you can see. Gray and pretty boring, so another 1 out of 10. Back then, this here used to be my least favorite tower in Rolla. Oh, I also forgot to mention, this here is the newest tower in Rolla, and it was built in like 2012, 2013. Yeah, I know, we haven't had a new tower in such a long time. Skinny monopole with one singular antenna. Beaconless, gray, literally just has the antenna you see up there. That's literally all it has. It's just, it's also boring. It's very forgettable. The reason why I even remember it is because it's by my old elementary school. You guys are probably wondering why this is not at the very bottom of the list. It's because you don't actually see monopoles like this every day. Well, the bottom of the list, you see monopoles like those every day. But this one here is not the most common type of monopole. And I don't really care, really. It's also pretty boring. I'm giving it a 1 out of 10. Next up, we got the I-44 monopole. Skinnier beaconless monopole with one platform. So it also had a 5G upgrade. So it looks just a bit cooler now, I guess. It's also gray and beaconless. Not a whole lot going for this monopole. This here is another pass-by monopole. Nothing special about this. If you miss this monopole, then yeah, you're not missing much. Next up, I got the monopole next to the Rolla MCI tower. This here is literally just a carbon copy of the monopole we just looked at on I-44. But the reason why this here is just a little bit higher on the list is because it also has a 5G upgrade. And its 5G upgrade actually looks a little cooler than the other tower's 5G upgrade. Oh, I also forgot to state that it has 5G antennas in the first place. Even though it has the cooler 5G upgrade of the two monopoles, this here is still pretty boring. It does stand next to a cooler tower, and that tower carries the monopole, but if the monopole was just literally by itself, then oh my, it's just boring. It's a pass-by tower through and through. 1.5 out of 10. This is a monopole close to the highway patrol station. It's beaconless, gray, basic at best. One platform. There's only one thing I can say about this. I like how some of the cell antennas seem to be sticking below the actual racks. That's a little cool, but nothing special. Get out of here. There's a water tower that's right next to it that's like half the size of this monopole, and it has markers, which they're not working at the moment, but it still has markers, and it's like so much smaller than this monopole, And this monopole is beaconless and markerless. I don't know why. Why do the small water towers next to monopoles get markers, but the monopoles are like twice as tall as them don't get anything? Next up, we got monopole by city limit. It's beaconless, it's gray, has one platform. It's a carbon copy of the monopole we just seen earlier. Though the reason why this here is higher up on the list might be controversial, but yeah, I like it more because it's that one little monopole I can see while traveling around my neighborhood on my bike or scooter or something. And for some reason, it's also next to a water tower, this half the size of this monopole, and it has markers, and the monopole has nothing. It's funny. It's really funny, isn't it? I got this one picture here. You can see the monopole in the distance when the sun's setting and stuff. It looked cooler in person. It just looked like a very distant tower. Even though it's just a boring beaconless monopole, it does look a little cooler when you're at a distance. And knowing that it's out in the country, it's also a little bit cooler, just a little bit cooler. But yeah, it's also just whatever. It's a 2 out of 10. Next up, we got random tiny red and white tower. This here is one that's close to Doolittle. It's also by city limits. It's beaconless, red and white, obviously. And here's a little funny thing. This tower is the closest tower to the Rolla airport, but it has no markers or beacons. Though there's a building on the other side of the highway that has markers littered all over it. I don't remember where the runway was facing, but I'm pretty sure it was facing away from the tower, but still, even if it was facing away from the tower, I would still imagine it having some sort of lighting system just in case. Would be cool if it had just a single pair of markers on it. Also has a little TV antenna that's just sticking out of it from the side. You can kind of see it in both pictures, but you can definitely see it sticking out in the second picture. And that's not how big the antenna, that's not how long the antenna is either. It's actually much longer, but I couldn't capture that. It's like sticking out of the tower. This tower's nothing special, so 2 out of 10. Alright, so we got the Highway 72 monopole. This one has a little bit of a story. So it's beaconless with only one platform. It's gray. It originally just had one set of cell antennas, but a second set was installed in 2019, and then in 2021 it was removed for some reason. I don't know why. So now it's back to how it used to be. And I actually like it better now. I like it more when it just had one gigantic platform on it. Because that's how I always known the monopole. Back then, when I used to ride the bus to school in like kindergarten and first grade, I would always pass by this monopole because there was a trailer park next to it where we had to pick up kids and stuff. And then the neighborhood that's next to the monopole too, we also had to go through there. So I have a little bit of nostalgia with this monopole, but as you can see, it's nothing special. So it's also going to get a 2 out of 10. Alright, so we got the RMU antenna tower. This might be a little controversial, but I actually do like this more than all of the towers below it. Even if it's just a small beaconless antenna tower that's like very, very small. Smaller than those water towers I mentioned earlier. Here's two pictures of it. The special thing, there's like two special things about this. The top, I like how the antennas are on the top. Like there's one rack sticking out of all three corners of the tower that have antennas on them. I also like how the tower is straight until the bottom where it kind of gets wider. I've always liked that with this tower. But it's small, it's gray, it's beaconless. It's nothing too special, really. But yeah, it's 2.5 out of 10. Next, we got the Sunny 1045 radio tower. This here is an all red tower. It's the first all red tower I've ever seen in my life. It's beaconless and it also lost some antennas. It used to have more antennas, but as you can see, they've been removed. So in the first picture, it has one antenna in the first picture that you can't see because the angle that's at. The second picture, that's how it is now. Well, I mean, both the first and second pictures are how it looks now. The third picture is all the antennas it used to have. So as you can see, it used to look cooler. But even with those older antennas on it, this tower isn't really too much. Really, the only thing that's carrying this tower up on the list is the fact that it's actually red. Like, all red. But after you get past the fact that it's all red, it's nothing special. Next up, we got the Downtown Monopole 2. So this here is a cooler Downtown Monopole up to 2. It's speakingless. It used to have four sets of antennas, but now it just has 3 for some reason. In the first picture, you can see all four sets of antennas. And then the second picture, you can see that the third one is missing. Now there's only 3. And then the other 2 pictures, those are just me walking up right next to the tower and taking a picture of it up close and up high. If you noticed, yes, I put all the monopoles down at the bottom of the list because they're all boring. Or, I mean, most of them are boring. But we'll get to that later. So I'm just going to give this a 3.5 out of 10. Next up, we got the Downtown Rolla pirod cell tower. This here is the only full pirod tower we have in Rolla. It's beaconless. It used to have some FM antennas on it, but for some reason they were removed. For some reason, I don't know why. It has cell antennas. That's the one thing it always had. It's gray, and it's beaconless too. I think I already mentioned that, but I don't know. It stands where the old Rolla Longline Tower used to stand. Yeah, the tower is pretty boring, but I do like how it's a pirod tower, and Rolla only has like 2 pirod towers, and one of them is like half a pirod tower. This one is a full pirod tower, I guess you can say, except for the top. That's all I have to say about this. It's a 3.5 out of 10. Next up, we got the Rolla Police Department Tower. It's beaconless. It's clustered with antennas. Like, look at that. Picture 1 doesn't show it, but picture 2 and 3 show how many antennas the tower has. If only this tower was just a few feet taller, I would love to see this tower with a beacon. This tower looks like the type of tower to have 2 sets of beacons. Every time I look at the tower, it screams FH308. If this tower did have a beacon, I would hope it would have a 308 because that's what it looks like, a type of tower that would have that beacon. I don't know why, but it just does. It at least looks cooler than the Pirod Tower. So there's that. It's a 3.5 out of 10 again. Next up, we got a special one. We got a flagpole monopole. Yes, that's what they're called. It's a disguised cell tower. It's all white and it's beaconless. Yeah, this thing's pretty cool. I'm pretty sure at night there's some spotlights that point up at it, so it lights up. So I mean, it kind of lights up at night. You can see the flag waving in the air. I can't find a single picture of that though. So yeah, there's that. I guess I was going to add one, but I couldn't find a picture. This poor flagpole monopole is overshadowed by a locomotive that stands right next to it. 3.5 out of 10. What a common score. Next up, we got that 4-legged abandoned tower. So when I filmed last year, like at the end of the last year, it's red and white, has some antennas here and there. It's small and beaconless. This one has a little bit of a mystery to it. I have no idea what's on top. It looks like somebody put streetlight photo cells on a rack. It's a weird tower. This here is the only 4-legged tower in Rolla now. We used to have 2, but one of them was destroyed in a storm. I think we all know what that tower is by now. Maybe. This is just that one tower that stands next to the 2 Lowe's towers. It's nothing too special, except for its little mystery on top. 3.5 out of 10. Next up, we got the radio and cell tower. This here is the one by Price Chopper. It used to just be a full radio tower, but it got cell antennas installed in 2019, so now you can say it's half and half. It's an improvement. It's an improvement because it just looks so much cooler now. It's gray. It's beaconless, but even though it's beaconless, for some reason it has a beacon platform on top of it. You see it. You can definitely see it in this picture here. You see that beacon platform? I don't know why it has that. There's no way this tower is ever going to get beacons, so it's kind of weird how it has that. Alright, that's really it for this tower. 3.5 out of 10. Next up, we got the last Rolla cell tower. It's a basic cell tower. Used to have an FH324, but now has a dual LED that refuses to go to day mode. It also has stationary markers. You can now say that dual LED is a night mode only LED, because to this day, it won't go to day mode, or at least permanently throughout the day. I believe like in the last few seconds before it goes into night mode, its day mode randomly pops on for some reason. I think I've seen it happen. It's weird. I don't know what's wrong with the LED. It needs fixed though. It has the 30 flash per minute night mode. It's also gray, as you can see. It's nothing special. It's really just basic. It was better with its FH324, honestly. 4 out of 10. Next up, we got the third Lowe's tower. This here is the first tower, the first dead tower on the list. So, it's an old style monopole. It was beaconless. It had 3 platforms with cell antennas on the top platform. It was gray with what looked like rust or something. It looked rusty. You can see it in the second. I mean, you can see it in both pictures. You see that? It was demolished in 2017. I remember all of that. My mom picked me and my sister up from school. We went down to Steak and Shake that's right next to this tower. And then I saw the crane. I was like, oh crap. It was pretty cool witnessing the crane taking the tower down piece by piece while getting sodas during happy hour. This tower wasn't the most special tower, but it was an old school monopole. As you can see, monopoles in this era were built in pieces. The higher the monopole went, the skinnier the pieces were. 4 out of 10. Next up, we got the KXMO, aka second KZNN FM tower. It's red and white, as you can see. It has an old school clear glass. Yeah, I was right. Old school clear glass, non-functional 300mm with only one set of markers. It's literally like right under 200 feet. Like it's like 199 or 98 feet. It's very close to 200 feet. Really, they had to shut off the beacon. Like, would it hurt to keep it on, even if it was like 1 or 2 feet away from the limit? I mean, required height. Like, literally, like 1 or 2 feet away from being 200 feet. I might sound stupid for saying this. Like, I've already said something like this before a long time ago, and I sounded like an idiot. But really, they should have just kept the beacon on, really. It wouldn't hurt a single thing. For years, I had no idea what the silverish looking thing on top was. It wasn't until like 2019, I think, when I actually discovered that it was a 300mm. I had a theory that it was some sort of broken, non-functional beacon because I did see the markers. And when I was little, I was like, are those lights? Are those lights? Yes, they were little LT. So as you can see in the second picture, it got some new antennas, so it looks much cooler now than it did before. In the third picture, you can see that the beacon and markers don't work, and trust me, the picture does show the tower, even though it doesn't show the tower at the same time. See where that street light is? That tower is like right next to the street light, either left or right, I don't know. But yeah, it doesn't work. Though Aiden did make a GIF of the tower if the 300 millimeter and markers did work. Mine is slow flashing for some reason. Yeah, it's just flashing very slow. The GIF is very slow for some reason. It was much faster before I added it onto the slides. So yeah, there's that. Pretty cool. I decided to just add it on here as a bonus. Next up, I got the Thomas Jefferson. Wait a second. Forgot to tell you the score. 4.5 out of 10 for the KXMO tower. Alright. The Thomas Jefferson Hall radio tower. It's small, red and white. Has a pair of dual L810 markers that worked until like 2017, 2018. And then they just started randomly working again in October 2022. Here's a weird thing. This tower here is not right next to it, but it's very close to a helicopter landing pad for the hospital. I don't know why the markers were shut off. They should have just kept on working. There shouldn't have been some dead period where the markers just stopped working for some reason. It's the same thing for the LA10 markers on the hospital building. That's like even closer to the helicopter landing pad, like right next to it. The markers on the hospital building were shut off for like much longer than this tower's markers were. And for some reason, those markers started working again randomly too. I don't know, it's weird. It's like, oh hey, let's shut off the markers to the hospital and that small radio tower close to it for like a few years. Okay, it's been like a few years. Let's turn them back on. I don't know why they did that. It was weird. Alright, so as you can see in the first picture, I said it's a radio tower. It was built to be a radio tower, but for some reason, in the early 2010s, it was temporarily a cell tower. For some reason, and then later on in the 2010s, it was transformed back into a radio tower. As you can see in the second picture. Third picture, you can see the markers working once more. And then in the fourth picture, above the third picture, you can see an old picture I found of the tower. As you can see, it was littered with antennas. This is a pretty cool small tower. This here is the best mini tower we have in Rolla, I say. I'll give it a 4.5 out of 10. Next up, we got the Rolla MCI tower. Man, don't we have a lot of unpacking to do with this tower. So if you don't remember, this tower is the tower that stands next to that one monopole we looked at much earlier into the video. It's red and white. It used to have an old school filter 300mm that had a fast flashlight rate. Like it was a very fast flash rate. And for some reason it constantly went into stationary mode. It would just turn into one giant marker. I don't know why it did that, but it did that constantly. It did that every morning. Every school morning when I was on the bus picking up kids and all that crap. I would usually see this tower. Usually when I would see it, half the time it was in a stationary mode. Sometimes I've seen it go into a stationary mode when it was blinking, and then other times I've seen it go out of stationary mode and start blinking again. I don't know, it was weird. If the tower still had that beacon, I would have this much higher on the list because I think that's pretty cool. It now has an L864, aka red only LED with one set of markers. It's most likely dialight. I believe it's dialight. The markers on the tower look dialight-ish. It also has the 5G antenna upgrade. The night mode it has is the old generation LED 20 flash per minute night mode. So it's basically just a night mode only 324. I mean, FH307. I guess you can say it's basically that, but brighter. I think that's a good replacement. At least it's not some white and red LED. It got its LED in like 2016 or 2017, I forgot. But I do miss the 300mm. That 300mm was one of the coolest I've seen. 5 out of 10 for me. Alright, next up we got a very infamous tower. It's the second Lowe's tower. It's a normal cell tower. It's basic nowadays. It used to have an FH324, but now has a dual FTS370. It also has 5G antennas, and it also has the FTS370 20 flash per minute night mode, sadly. So you can see the GIFs. The first GIF you can see is the current night mode of the tower. The second one is the current day mode of the tower. And then the third one is the former night mode of the tower. As you can see, it's also gray, which I forgot to state for some reason. This tower lost everything that made it a little bit cool. It had some cooler looking antennas on it, as you can see in the second picture. Those were removed a long time ago, and now it has basic 5G antennas. Used to have an FH324, but now has an LED. Used to go into night mode very, very late in the night, but it also lost that now because the LED goes into night mode at a reasonable time. This tower was stripped of everything cool. So there's that. It's a very, very overrated tower, honestly. This tower became a meme in the tower community. It's literally just now a basic cell tower. There's nothing special to it now. You're probably wondering why it's this high up on the list. It's because most of this list is filled with boring monopoles and small towers that have no beacons or anything or something like that. So we're now just starting to get into the towers with beacons. So trust me. All right, so I'm going to also give this a 5 out of 10. Moving on, we got the first lowest tower. This here is more interesting than the second one, though this one does not get as much praise as the other one. Pretty funny, am I right? So it has old cell tower equipment, as you can see, all the microwave dishes and all that stuff. Yeah, that stuff is old. Used to have an FH308 that would skip flashes, only in day mode though, but now has an L865 white only FTS370W. It's gray. It had the quick burst, but it had the quick burst back. What am I doing? It had the quick burst night mode when it had its FH308, and it still has that night mode today. Yep, day mode and night mode are the same for its current LED. There's like only one little change. The LED gets dimmer for night mode. That's literally it. I'll give it a 5.5 out of 10. Alright, next up we got the half microwave and cell tower. Has an FH324 that goes into backup night mode every long period of time for some reason. Has cell antennas and microwave dishes on it, as you can see. It's gray, and it has the 20 flash per minute night mode, the good one, because it has an FH324. This tower has went into backup night. Oh, my game chair is causing me problems. This tower has went into backup night mode like 4 separate times, I think. I've only filmed the third and fourth time it went into backup night mode. And then there was one time where it went into it was stuck in day mode, as you can see in the fourth picture. I got to film that. Has like 1.5 sets of antennas, I think. No, just one really. The top doesn't count. Whatever that antenna is on the top. We only got 2 towers in Rolla that shine white at night. Though this here can make a good third one. It's a temporary third one. So I like that. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. It looks pretty good for a more basic looking tower. Next up we got the red and white guide tower by I-44. Has a TWR strobe 420. I think that's what it's called. Single strobe. It's red and white, as you can see. Has a bunch of abandoned looking antennas on it. As you can see in the first picture, you can see all of them. Has a quick burst night mode. I also found a picture of this tower too back then in the 80s, I believe. It's the same picture that was shown earlier with the small red and white tower, that with the markers. I think this tower used to have a 300mm. I bet so, because it is a pretty old tower. This here is the second tower in Raw that only shines white. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Next up, I got the current Highway Patrol Tower. Has an FG3000B dual strobe. Has lots of dipole antennas on it. Antennas and microwave dishes. Half pirod tower. Yep, this here is a half pirod tower I was talking about earlier. You see, all of that is pirod. And then the rest of it is not. It's gray, as you can see. And it also has the 20 flash per minute night mode. The FG3000B version, though, which is a little different from the normal it's a mixture between the good and bad 20 flash per minute night mode. It's currently going through a beacon crisis. I think the beacon has a bad capacitor. I think maybe, I don't know, but right now it's stuck in day mode. It's stuck in a very, very dim day mode, as you can see in the last picture. So at day you can barely see it flash, but at night you can see it flash definitely. At first I thought it was backup night mode because one of the backup night modes to the FG3000B kind of looks like a dimmer day mode, so I kind of just naturally assumed that that's what it was. But nowadays I think that it's just it's day mode. It's really dim day mode, but since it's dark outside, you can actually see it much better. But usually it would shine red, as you can see. It's not as cool as the old Highway Patrol Tower, I have to say. But it is pretty cool in its own right. I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10. Next up, we got the MCI looking microwave tower. So this might be another MCI tower, I don't know. It looks like it's some sort of microwave tower, an old one. It has an old school filter 300mm with one set of markers. It's red and white. I'm not exactly too sure what flash rate it has, but I believe it might be a 30 flash per minute night mode flash rate. I don't know, but it has a fast flash rate. It can rival the flash rate of the Rolla MCI's MCI tower's 300mm. This tower looks so much cooler in person, though in the picture it doesn't really look too special. But trust me, it looks so much cooler in person. That's the reason why it's this high up on the list. This here is like the closest tower to my grandma's house too, so I have a lot of nostalgia with this. It's the only tower in Rolla with a working 300mm too, so I guess that's another reason why it's this high up on the list. Oh, my throat tickles. I think I've been talking too much. 8 out of 10. Next up, we got the first tall red and white clone tower. It has 2 sets of L864 red LEDs with 2 sets of working markers. Lucky. It has the old Gen 20 flash per minute night mode. It's also the tallest structure in Rolla because there's no other structure in Rolla that's taller than this. It looks pretty cool in person. I like how the platform on top is like very, very big. It's weird, but it's cool. It's a 9 out of 10 for me. Alright, these next 2 towers are they're tied really, I guess you can say. First one is the old Highway Patrol Tower. I'm talking too fast for my own good. It had an old school 300mm with 2 sets of markers. Shortly after the current tower was 100% finished, its beacon setup was shut off, and it never fully worked again. I say it never fully worked again because I have one memory of me on the highway at night or a road or something, and I could see like one marker from the bottom set of markers that it was just lighting up. I don't know why, but there's just one marker on the tower, on the bottom of the tower that was just lit up for some reason. But yeah, its beacon setup was shut off, even though it was the taller of the 2 towers. So I don't remember the beacon flash rate. I guess you can kind of see, you can kind of get an idea of what it had as if you can kind of get the idea of what flash rate it had when you see the GIF. It was destroyed by a storm in 2014. Sadly, half the tower was toppled by high winds, and the rest of the tower was taken down by a crane. There's sadly no street view of that though, sadly, but I do remember seeing that. The crane was like halfway through with the tower. It's a very cool tower. I really wish it was still around. At least it's being recreated in Unreal Engine. Ryan C is making lots of towers for a new game that he's making that involves tower climbing and stuff. And one of those towers are going to be a recreation of this tower here. So yeah, you can say this tower is going to be reanimated into the digital world, where it can never be destroyed whatsoever because aging does not exist in that game, or video games in general. This tower is a complete 10 out of 10 for me. Nothing more said. 10 out of 10. Alright, now it's time to get on to the final tower. This tower is tied with this tower, so you can say both this tower and the next tower are number 1 on the list. But next tower we got the classic Walmart tower. Alright, this might be controversial because it is a monopole, but this tower is so iconic to me, really. It used to have an FH309, but now it has a dialight D564 LA64 red LED. It also has a weird flash rate too. It has 5G antennas, as you can see in the first picture. Yeah, it's a 10 out of 10. I actually found a video of the tower. I mean, it's not a video of the tower, but it was stormy in the video. So it was at least dark enough for its FH309 to work. So yeah, the video was made when it still had its FH309, and in the video it kind of had a similar flash rate to an FH324 night mode. Something that's kind of like something in the GIF you can see. The last image being from the video I'm talking about right now. So this tower is also a 10 out of 10, obviously. It's my favorite tower, what do you expect? And you guys might be wondering why my favorite tower is a monopole. Well, guess what, man? Us tower enthusiasts are all equally different, like pizza toppings on a pizza. So we need some variety, anyways, because most tower enthusiasts' favorite towers are very tall TV towers. So it's nice to have a little bit of a change. So yeah, like I said earlier, 10 out of 10 tower. That's going to do it for this list. So yeah, now my throat hurts from talking. Oh well. Yeah, sorry to whoever requested this video. This took a long time to make, and I didn't get to it either because I lost motivation like less than halfway through. But I picked up motivation again, so yeah, now I got the list completed and stuff. So yeah, there's that. Gifts were made by Wise Aiden and Ryan C. Images were either by me, Google Maps, or YouTube. Alright, that's going to be it.